trying to manage the entertainment with the baseball was really one of the things that I really wanted to do as a challenge. Is like, can we really win a lot of games and do all the entertainment with all of our characters that we have inside the game?
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get Zoned In podcast. I'm Duke Baxter here with Steve Nikorak. Coach Steve, we have a very special guest this week on our podcast. Who is it this week?
Yes, guys, welcome back to another great episode. Let's welcome Tyler Gillum, the head coach of the world-famous Savannah Bananas. Tyler's been a prominent figure in baseball for many years, especially known for introducing the world to banana ball and coaching the Savannah Bananas to back-to-back CPL championships in 2021 and 2022. I'm sure our listeners are ready to get started, so let's dive right in. Thanks so much for being here today.
Boom, baby. That was, man, I'm honored after that, man. You guys talked me up way too much. I'm pumped to hear about you guys, man, and learn a little bit from you guys today too. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So Tyler, can you take us through your baseball journey? What was it like in the Gillum household, and what got you loving the game?
Well, I'll tell you what, Duke, I grew up in Oklahoma, small town country kid. My dad was a bull rider. My mom was a cheerleader. And so my dad, was, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie 8 Seconds. Does that movie ever ring a bell to you guys? Lane Frost. So that's who I grew up idolizing. My dad rodeoed with Lane Frost throughout high school and into amateur pro rodeo. And when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, 8 Seconds actually came out. And me, my dad, my mom, and my little brother went to the movies. And we went to watch 8 Seconds. And that's the first time I ever saw my dad cry. At the end of the movie, Lane gets horned by a bull and he dies in Cheyenne. And I look over at my dad and he's crying. And I'm like, what is happening? What's going on? And I basically decided in that moment, I think I'd rather get hit by a 90-mile-an-hour fastball than horned by a bull. So I decided to pivot a little bit and go down that baseball route a little bit more. And I got finished with riding calves and steers and just focused on baseball. My cousin is who I grew up really idolizing more than anybody, and he got me into the game of baseball. His name's Chris Offord. He's about 8 years older than I am, and he went to the same high school as I did, Latta High School. And growing up, they won 4 state championships. So when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, I watched his team dogpile. He was a big Cubs fan at that time, Ryan Sandberg. So, I got to be a middle infielder, at that time. And as I went through high school, I got to high school and I always wanted to win more state championships than him. And I didn't get a chance to win more, but we tied. We won 4 state championships. And at that time, I played for a legendary high school coach, Eddie Collins. I didn't know how good I had it at the moment, but now he ended up in 2021. He broke the national wins record for high school baseball coaches with 2,126 wins. His buddy, Bowen, just recently beat him. So we've got 2 Oklahoma guys, small town Oklahoma guys that have the most wins over anybody. And I've been able to kind of get mentored by both of them. So that was a big piece of my baseball experience where I learned to play the game. Coach Collins is my hero. With all my teams, we do a lesson called Hero Highlight Hardship, and we find out a lot about our players, and we share a lot of stories about ourselves. And it's one of the most chemistry building exercises that I've done with any teams. And so when I start that basically exercise with our team, I share my story and I tell them, like, Coach Collins is my hero. He impacted me. That's why I coach. He kind of led me down this path that could have been way, way worse. My family struggled with drugs and alcohol abuse. I have a lot of family members that have been in and out of jail. My mom died of an Oxycontin overdose in 2018, and my dad's had 5 DUIs and currently in AA and been in and out of jail a lot. And so, I could have easily been down that path if it wasn't for Coach Collins' Latta baseball and the baseball field being my cathedral to take me away and give me something to do besides get in trouble, And so, I learned a lot of what not to do and what to do, how to handle yourself as a man from Coach Collins. Everything was yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. You respected everybody, but you feared no one. One of his favorite lines was, it doesn't matter who's in that other dugout. They put their pants on just like you do, one leg at a time. So the competition's always been there for me. I've chased dog piles, and I love to develop, and I love to go to the field every day. So that was me going through high school. From there, I went to Seminole State Junior College, one of the winningest junior colleges in the country. The guys I coached for, the head coach at that time was Eric Myers. And when he played at Seminole State Junior College, the 2 years he played there, they were 153-9. They lost 9 games in 2 years. Unbelievable. It would make you into a man, but it wasn't for everybody. We started with 43 guys my freshman fall, and by the end of the fall, we were down to 26, and not one person got cut. Every single person quit because it was too hard. It was 4:30 a.m., morning workouts. We had burnouts on Wednesday nights. We lifted 3 days a week. We literally lived at the field. So if you didn't love baseball, then that wasn't the place for you. But if you loved baseball and that's all you ever wanted to do, it's the exact place that you need to be at in order to grow as a man and as a baseball player, because there's no distractions in Seminole, Oklahoma, boys. You had Walmart, okay? You had a couple stoplights and Walmart, right? And so, like, you weren't getting into much. Like, we used to just sleep at the field in our indoor complex. But what I learned at Seminole is, like, you can break down any wall that you want as long as you're willing to sacrifice for it. I went from 145 to 175 in a year and a half. I went from benching 155 and benching 285. I benched out at 285 when I was weighing 175. And so at that time, it was a lot of football workouts, which, being a strength and conditioning guy, I agree with some of it, but I don't agree with some of it. But at the same time, what I do know is that the confidence that they instill in you at Seminole, going through burnouts, going through morning workouts back in the 70s until now, that's what connects all of us. What I do know is that it prepares you mentally to go in and compete against anybody in the country, no matter what the talent level is. And so I love Seminole for that. From there, I went to East Central University. It's in my hometown. I went there. A big reason why I went there is I knew they had a master's degree in education, and I could hop onto the coaching staff as soon as I finished playing. Mom and dad didn't give me any money to go to school. They paid for 12 hours. I'm also Native American, so I'm Chickasaw and Choctaw Indian, and I got a little bit of money from them. And then I was also a Pell Grant kid. So I stacked all this money to be able to pay for my school, pay for my food, pay for my living. And then I would send some money back home to the parents. And just tried to make it. But I knew I could get my master's in education, and I knew I could hop onto the coaching staff as soon as I finished playing, because they had no paid assistants. And so I could get my my master's degree paid for, and I could get all the responsibility of an assistant coach at 23 years old. And that's what happened. As soon as I finished playing, I got in a recruiting car, went to Texas, tried to recruit some guys, didn't know what I was doing. Just like, hey, trying to find some dudes and let's rock and roll. So I was coaching third base. I was running infield. I was running our infielder. It was a challenging experience because we weren't very good, and I learned a lot of what not to do in those 2 years. But it gave me the opportunity to learn, because of all the responsibility I had at 23. That trajectory got me to South Mountain, which is in Phoenix, and that's a whole nother story. But I've been talking a lot, so.
What a story. That's impressive. Can you talk a little bit about how you got involved with the Savannah Bananas and the whole kind of roadmap to where you are now?
Yeah. So at East Central, I finished up those 2 years and got my master's degree. They didn't have a full-time paid assistant position. So I said, hey, I got to go do something else. At that time, I was 25 years old. My goal was to be a Division I coach. I wanted to be a Division I coach in 3 years. And so with setting that goal, I said, what can I do right now that can get me to that goal in 3 years? And I thought it was 3 things. And I've been led by these 3 things since basically May of 2011. Okay. That's learn, grow, and network. Those are the 3 things that I think help get you to where you want to go. So learn, grow, and network. So what I basically did was scour the country and said, okay, where's the best place I can learn, grow, and network with the most amount of baseball coaches or players or whatever, anybody in the baseball world. We used to go to Phoenix and play during spring training. So I had a couple connections there, and I wanted to be at South Mountain because that's the first field I ever played on in Arizona, and I fell in love with it. I actually got like 6 hits in 2 games, and that's probably like the most hits I ever got in college. So I thought I could hit at at South Mountain. So I fell in love with South Mountain, and I wanted to be there, but I didn't know if they had an opening. So this is what I did. I sent an email out to every junior college in the Valley of Phoenix. There's 8 junior colleges, 7 D2s, and South Mountain is a Division I JUCO. And I basically said, hey, in 2 weeks, I'm going to drive straight out to Phoenix. I would love to interview if you have a position open, just let me know, kind of type of deal. So 3 coaches got back to me. I drove 17 hours straight to Phoenix. I interviewed for 2 days, slept in my car, drove 17 hours back. I got an opportunity to interview with Todd Easton, the head coach at South Mountain. And he just, at that time, he had a hitting coach that left. He had a position open, and me and Todd hit it off. Like, we have a lot of the same philosophies. We're a lot simple in our teachings. We're very structured, very disciplined in a lot of ways, and so our philosophies matched up. And on my way home, he called me and said, "Hey, I got a position open for if you want to come." And I said, "Dude, I'll take it. I'll figure out how to make money. I've worked on field maintenance jobs. I've done all that stuff. So I'll figure out how to make ends meet." He calls me back a week later, and he says, "I've got a field maintenance job open for you at South Mountain. It's $9 an hour, no benefits. So your master's degree that you have, it doesn't matter, right? And you can work on the fields, and then we'll practice in the afternoon." I said, "Shoot, I'll take it. Let's do it." And so, growing up with not a whole lot of money and always making ends meet, and I can live off of nothing. I think it prepared me to be able to take the risk and do this. It wasn't that big of a deal for me. What I've learned, though, is there's a lot of people in the coaching world, or just in life in general, that are scared to kind of take those risks. It's like they need something a little bit more comfortable. And I've always been, I just kind of jump at things, and I'm not scared to kind of get in the mix. And so I went out there. I worked 4:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on field maintenance. I would take a shower in the gym, and then we would practice from 2 to 6, and then I'd do it all over again the next day. And then on the weekends, I would recruit. All right. So that got me to South and made ends meet. That summer, I said, I want to keep coaching. Again, learn, grow, and network. What's the best way to do that? Go coach summer baseball. Meet more players, coach more games. Went to the Myrtle Beach Collegiate League the first summer, was a head coach there. That league doesn't exist anymore. There was a lot of adversities in that league. Really prepared me for some things I dealt with in the future. So I'm very grateful for those things. From there, in 2014 through 16, I coached in the Texas Collegiate League and won 3 TCL championships with the Brazos Valley Bombers. I coached with 2 of my best friends, Clay Cox and Kurt Dixon. We had some unbelievable players there. From there, it trajectored me to the Cape Cod League, where I got a chance to coach with Scott Pickler, who is the winningest head coach in Cape Cod history. Just absolutely legend up there. Love that man to death. And that gets me to how I got to the Bananas. And so that summer, 2017, my buddy was the head coach of the Bananas. His name's Sean West. And I met Sean in 2011 working at Dean Marini Top 96 camp in Houston, Texas. And what I always tell coaches all the time is try to go connect and work as many camps as you can. Don't worry about the money. Go impact some kids, go meet some coaches. Because if I didn't drive 8 hours to Houston in 2011 to make like $200, I wouldn't have met Sean West, and Sean West probably wouldn't have called me in 2017 to say, "Hey, I'm leaving the Bananas. I'm having another kid. I can't go back. I want to go back, but I'll connect you with everybody that needs to be connected with." Right. And so I said, "All right, cool. Let's talk about it a little bit more." And then that's kind of how that all went down. I got an interview with Jesse and Jared, and we've been on a rocket ship since 2018.
It was as soon as I went and brought Tyler, and the way you guys treated me when we were there, I was, and telling Steve all about it was like, the coolest part is, it's like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball, but it's not just, just fun. Like, these guys are really good players at the same time. So when you go as a professional athlete and you watch, it's fun to watch because the ball's good, and just everyone is just so real. Every single player high five Tyler. They asked about Tyler. They genuinely like cared about the kid that was in the dugout, and it wasn't just a high five or just a glancing by. Every single person was like genuinely cared about every fan that was in those stands. And so that leads me to my question of, it seemed like you've had a hardcore baseball crew with hardcore guys. How do you turn the switch to make it so much fun? Because that's what we do in Dominate the Diamond, and how we do our coaching is trying to get the coaches to realize how fun you need to make the game fun, so the kids, like you do with the fans, we want the kids to come back every year and play the game and love the game. So how do you bring that fun to everything that you're doing, when it comes to the Bananas?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we do is really love on these guys, man. Create relationships. That's where it starts. Like, a lot of it's love tough, or it's really creating that relationship. When we coach summer baseball, we recruited kids all over the country. And so they would get to us the first couple of weeks, and I would always have our coaches meeting. And I'd say the first thing is, the first 2 weeks, we're not going to teach any mechanics. We're not going to teach any like swing mechanics, hitting mechanics, pitching mechanics. It's all going to be all relationships. I want you to know everything about these people, who their families are, where they're from, what they majored in, what they like to eat. And then when they come in, we like surprise them with all kinds of like different types of gifts. Like, there's different ways that we try to basically let them know, like, hey, dude, we care about you. This thing's a lot bigger than just baseball or banana ball. And you're part of the family now. And the reason why I think that's important is because a lot of times when you go, I've seen a lot of coaches, like, as soon as a player shows up, they take 7 swings and you're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to change all this. And especially when you get 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, they've been doing this game for like 15 years. And if you go automatically in the first place, like, you're going to lose trust. So it's all about building trust up right away, being vulnerable and saying, hey, we're in this thing together. We're trying to, create the best show, but we're trying to develop you and get you to the next level. And we're going to dogpile at the end of this summer. And so that's how it started in summer baseball. But it's being loose in a lot of ways. I think a lot of times, I've played for a lot of very structured coaches, and I've also coached all over the country and seen different types of players from different types of cultures. And I believe you can win in multiple different ways. Everybody doesn't have to be, drill sergeant all the time, right? And I played under coaches like that, and like I respond well in a lot of those structured situations, and I think I use some of those philosophies. But at the same time, like, I'm also laid back in a lot of ways, and they feel like they can come talk to me, and they feel like they can come talk to our coaching staffs. But what you're saying about when your son showed up and like all the players are talking to him, and like we did the same thing with all the fans, is that starts with our Fans First Entertainment LLC and what our motto is. And it's Fans First, Entertain Always. And what that basically means is just take care of people. Understand when people show up in front of you, look them in the eye, high five them, handshake, hug, and let people in. There is a real true path saying, hey man, welcome to Banana Land, and I hope you have a fun time, and actually mean it, and converse and actually hear their stories. We've got a lot of great players, and they've bought into that philosophy. And since 2016, this thing's grown basically one fan at a time. And what we say a lot is every fan that comes through that gate, we want to create a never forget moment. And the hard thing is sometimes is like, we got to remind ourselves that, especially after this tour, it's 87 games and we had over 500,000 fans, and you get in this mode of just like, hey, you're going to go put on these shows. Right. And you kind of forget, like, hey, there's somebody that has never seen you play before. They don't know who you guys are. They've never been to a game. So we constantly try to remind our guys and ourselves of that every single day. It's like, there's somebody that's going to walk in. They've never been to a banana ball game. They've never seen you play. And our goal tonight is to leave them with a never forget moment. So when they walk away, they go tell all their buddies, like, hey, that was the coolest thing I've ever experienced. And that's that player connection. And I feel like that's what, you and Ty got in the dugout hanging out with us during BP, man.
I mean, that's so cool because you can't shut off and you can't take a day off, especially doing what you guys do. I remember listening to like Kobe Bryant talk about it, talking about playing through sickness and playing through, just not feeling it that day, but somebody's there to see him for the first time. So I love that. How do you recruit your guys? What's it take to play for the Savannah Bananas, and how do you find guys that kind of fit all of the pieces that you need?
Yeah, so there's 5 things that I look for in a banana. Number 1 is got to be talented right away. A lot of people think we just dance and do a bunch of crazy stuff, but these guys are really good at baseball. We have first rounders, we have former MLB affiliate guys that have been up to AA, AAA. We've got guys that played indie ball, D1 college All-Americans. And so number 1 is talent. Number 2 is toughness, the ability to show up every single day. These guys are on from 1 p.m. until 10 o'clock at night, and there's no like hangout time, and so they're asked to do a lot. They're in the stands, like there's in between innings, we're doing stuff. There's no like setting down really. So the toughness is a part of it. Guys that are just able to kind of keep things in perspective and like enjoy, like, hey, this might be a long road trip, which the Bananas take really good care of us. Like our hotels are legit and our food's legit, but it's like, when we call it Murphy, like Murphy's Law is going to show up, right? If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And so like, we're always looking to kick Murphy's ass. And so like, if something shows up that's bad, it's like, oh, there's Murphy. You got to overcome that. And so that's that part of toughness, overcoming any obstacles that show up. Number 3 is hardworking. I love guys that just want to be around the field all the time. That's who I was. That's who a lot of our coaches are. And so those guys that just love being here, they're rats, right? They just never leave. Those guys end up figuring out how to be the best banana. And then number 4 is selfless. We spend a ton of time with fans, signing autographs, taking pictures. And it's not just during the game. It's like when we were in Sugar Land, Texas, we got back from the bus. It was midnight. There was 150 fans standing outside of our hotel. I felt like we were the Beatles. And why people probably, tell our stories and come to our games is at midnight, we get off the bus and there's 150 fans there, and our guys pile off and start playing catch with all these kids out front. And then me and some of our coaches stayed up and talked to the parents. And while we were doing that, we had like 3 players stay up till 4 a.m. with 3 like 10, 12-year-olds and just talk shop with them. And those guys will remember that for the rest of their lives. I sat there and looked at our guys. We didn't ask them to do that. It's just who they are as people, And so we got great people, and you want to surround yourself with great people and great things happen, right? And the last one there is outgoing, right? Everybody doesn't have to be outgoing. We've had a lot of people actually come into this environment that I'll give you this one. Stephen Kellogg, okay? He got up to AAA with the Cubs, lefty pitcher, played at ASU, was the number 1 arm at ASU back in like 2015. When I was recruiting him, I talked to a bunch of coaches, and they were like, I don't know if he fits into banana ball and like the entertainment. Like he doesn't have like the most outgoing personality, or like, I don't see him dancing, and all of that stuff, And so like, I've done this for a long enough that when it allows you to open up and kind of be vulnerable and be somebody you've never been able to be on the baseball field, you see things show up. You guys can go on Twitter or Instagram and go look up Stephen Kellogg doing the Napoleon dance on the field in Milwaukee. It's a 2.5-minute dance. He pitched 6 innings. He finished his inning in the 6th inning, took his shirt off. He had the Napoleon shirt on and did the Napoleon Dynamite dance for 2.5 minutes. It's the only solo dance we've ever done in Banana Land. And he killed it. And like all of our players were just like, dude, I can't believe you did that. So that's kind of what that play, that's kind of what Banana Land does. We like outgoing people, but sometimes the environment makes people outgoing.
So managing these guys, right? Like say you're the shortstop, right? Like is there a lot of teaching? Like, are you still like coaching those guys, or are they kind of like, they're already good, like you said, but is there still coaching, and do you get a chance to still do that part of the game that you love, and that's coaching, or are you doing it more the mental side and just kind of making sure they're fitting into the, the process, or are you kind of doing both?
Yes. nobody's ever put entertainment in baseball. So managing that, figuring out like, hey, in the 6th inning, Stilts is going in, and then like, it might not be the right fit. So we might adjust to the 7th inning, and time's running out, and we've got to get Bill Lee in, and Wolf's going to go play second base with his barrel. And like trying to manage the entertainment with the baseball was really one of the things that I really wanted to do as a challenge, is like, can we really win a lot of games and do all the entertainment with all of our characters that we have inside the game? Along with that is like those strategies, like positioning. We shift a lot. The party animals who we play against a lot, they have a lot of left-handed hitters, so we shifted a lot on those guys. And they're really good. I think they had 15 guys that ended up playing independent ball before. And so they're good hitters. So that's really challenging, trying to figure out where we're going to position them based on who's pitching.
How much time would you say goes into, the skits when you guys are at practice? You just talked about like, incorporating them into the daily vitamins, but I mean, you guys do a lot more than just the trick plays on the field. So, is there a lot of time spent like in the morning working on the different skits, the stuff that guys see on TikTok and Instagram?
Yeah, so throughout the week, we have idea paloozas all the time. They do it on their own, and then we do it in teams usually early in the week, like Tuesday or Wednesday. We've got whiteboard up. Like we've got everybody in our organization comes up with ideas that we can do. We have currently like 48 full-time employees, and then we've got 60 players. No, 45 players. Yeah, everybody comes up with ideas. It doesn't matter who you are. If you got an idea, throw it on the whiteboard. And so those were some of the ideas come from. A lot of it is like game day. Here it is, boys. Let's roll it out and let's get it done, and then go into it.
Can you talk to some of the listeners that are going to be listening? They're going to be coaches of youth players, anywhere from 7 to 12, 14-year-olds, like whatever. But let's kind of tailor down to that youth coach. How can you help them, and what should they be doing to help add fun into their practices? How important is it to make the game fun for these kids, and what are some tips on ways that they can do that?
Absolutely. Think outside the box. One of the main quotes that I heard when I first took the job with the Bananas is, whatever's normal, do the exact opposite. So as an infield guy, the general practice plan sometimes for letting guys take ground balls is, you got 10 players, you put them at third base, you hit one ground ball, and the other 9 are sitting there watching, picking their nose. And so I hate that scenario. And so figure out how you can get all 10 of them moving and doing something at all times. And so put them at different spots to catch and rotate them around, kind of like circuits. Almost every one of my drills that I've tried to create has something to do with like a circuit. So there's not very much standing around. And as you guys know, like even me, like I get bored if I'm not doing anything. So a 10-year-old with the technology that they have these days, they're going to get bored real quick too. So you got to keep them locked in. Make everything a game. Make everything competitive. Make it have fun. Kids love games. But figure out where you can keep them engaged. The scenario that I use with the line 10 kids up and hit one ground ball, what I like to do instead of that scenario is move a couple guys to first base, so they got to catch it first, right? Move another group to second base, where the first baseman has to catch, come off, and throw to second base. The guy at second base can catch and tag, and then the guy at second base that's catching and tagging, he'll just move to the line of ground balls. The other guys that are waiting for ground balls, they're working on their prep step. And so every time a ground ball's hit, they're prep stepping and moving in a direction. So they're getting that first step quickness. And so now think about all the reps that they're going to get through that entire scenario versus one kid gets a ground ball and 9 kids watch. And so I think we need to take a look at every one of our drills and figure out how we can implement that scenario. So reps increase. Once the focus goes up, that's where skill development's going to change. The other thing I think a lot of youth coaches need to do is kind of understand the continuum of really easy and then extra hard. And a lot of times I like to use the scenario of really easy is always hitting off the tee, and then really hard is hitting off the hack attack, and you got that sucker jacked up and everybody's swinging and missing. And so you have to understand you need to be able to shift on that continuum depending on who the player is and what the skill development is. You need to build confidence early, especially at the early ages. And then you need to trickle in it being challenging, right? And you need to keep trickling in the challenging until you realize like the success rate is under 50%. Then you're going to start losing confidence, right? So you need to keep it challenging, but if it's always too challenging and they always are failing, they're going to go play soccer or they're going to go play lacrosse. And so you need to kind of trickle in it being challenging. And that's the root of all skill development, right? Is if you read the book, The Talent Code by Malcolm Gladwell or excuse me, Daniel Coyle, or Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, they talk about people that are outliers that are highly successful at what they do. And how do they get to that point? They are training just like that comfort zone. We like easy BP. We like easy ground balls. I think the best training environment I call my training environment a lot of times is train ugly, is figure out that environment where it's challenging, but you have your daily vitamins in there. So you're getting the most amount of rep skills quickly, all right, to improve all of those movement proficiencies of like your glove patterns and finding kill zone and transfers and that. So it's daily vitamins is that easy, block training. And then you take them and you shift them across that continuum to something really tough that's challenging, and you make them compete. You make it challenging so that focus level goes up. You just got to keep moving back and forth. So that's my biggest probably piece of advice.
Talent Code. That's a good one. One of my favorite parts of that book was when they were talking about futsal and the soccer players playing in like a basketball size field, and then when those guys are able to get outside, the amount of touches they have in such a short amount of time, they get out onto this open soccer field, and it's like, so we try to do the same thing. We're practicing in small enclosed spaces, max amount of reps. It's fast paced. You're getting a million touches versus like what you said, lining up 10 kids and hitting one ground ball at a time. But my last year playing baseball was the St. Paul Saints, and that was the first time I witnessed a little bit of the craziness in between innings. And right. We did the world's biggest food fight. We did the world's world record for biggest pillow fight. What are some things do you think Major League Baseball, because you guys do it on a whole nother level, what can Major League Baseball incorporate to make the game fun the way that you guys do?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things they can do. We're not trying to be Major League Baseball. We learned a long time ago that like we can't compete with that, and that's not what we're trying to compete against. We learned a long time ago that we're trying to do something completely different, and we're going to go down that route. And so some of those things that we do is really break down the wall between player and fan. And that's hard to do at the Major League level, but I think that's what makes us who we are, and it really impacts youth baseball. Before games, what we do is we meet every fan out front. And so our gates open at 5:30. So we do what we call a banana march. So we go out, like I'll give you an example. In Indianapolis, it was 15,000 people. They were wrapped around the entire stadium in Indianapolis. And we went out front, high-fived every single person. And then we went up on a stage and we did our traditional Hey Baby dance, and we welcomed them into the stadium. And then we have open seating. We have open seating at our stadium. So if you get a general admission ticket, if you get there early, then you can go choose whatever seat you want to go sit in. At home, we do all you can eat with your general admission ticket. You actually kind of lose a little bit of money on the all you can eat, but the experience is what catapults everything else that we do, and you get people to the ballpark and they have an unbelievable experience. And then they go tell, the people that come, they're your best marketers. They're going to go tell their never forget story, right? It's a lot better than any billboard, any social media post that you can do. It's the people that show up. And so breaking down that wall between player and fan, that's a big piece. After our games, we go debrief. And so we go out in the front plaza, and we'll be out there for about 45 minutes, signing autographs, taking pictures. We have our DJ playing music. We have our band, our Banana Band out there playing music. So it's a whole experience. A lot of people that have come to our games have basically said from 5:30 to 7 o'clock is they got their money's worth and the game hadn't even started yet. And back in 2019, we had a writer come down from Baseball Digest, and the game got rained out. And in his article, it said, "This is the best baseball game I've ever been to," and not a pitch was thrown because it got rained out. It was the experience that happened. We have a script, a rain script. So an example of that, we were in Tampa playing at the Yankee Spring Training Complex, packed house, like 12,000 people. It starts raining at 6. They tarp it. And from 6 to 8 o'clock, we entertained. We were all in the stands. We were on the field dancing. We were doing all of these things, interacting with fans. Nobody left. Pouring rain. People are just sitting there dancing. It's pouring rain on them. And they finally got the tarp off at 8 o'clock, and we played. And that was one of those never forget moments for me. Is just like, man, there's so many people in this place, and it's rained on them for 2 hours and nobody left. And then after the game, they all stayed and got autographs, and they said, "This is the most fun I ever had at a baseball game."
7 o'clock game. What's the earliest you see people start getting there for those, sit wherever you want tickets?
Yeah. So I saw some cool things in Jacksonville. That on Sunday we played a 1 o'clock game. Our bus arrived at 8:30, and they were tailgating out front. In Sugarland, they had a guy. So a 7 o'clock game. There was a guy that pitched a tent in front at 9:45. And so he stayed there so he could be the first in line. So usually people start showing up around that 2 o'clock range, and we kind of corral them in so they can have an experience while they're waiting. So they can get concessions, there's music playing, they can buy merch. And so if they show up around that 3:30, we let them in, we corral them in, they hang out, and kind of have an experience, and just instead of just sitting outside, waiting for the gates to open.
So it sounds like you absolutely love the game. And, when it's all said and done, what's the message that you want to leave with all the baseball fans, with all the people? What do you want them saying about Tyler Gillum?
Well, I'll say this. In 2017, I set a goal to have a positive impact on 1 million people through baseball education and exercise. I set that goal because I was watching a guy that I looked up to, and he said, "If you don't have goals that scare the hell out of you, then you're not doing it right." And so I've stayed true to that goal since 2017. Just at the end of the day, that the shirt that I have that represents chasing 1 million people and impacting 1 million people, my shirt says "Bet on yourself." And I basically sell those shirts. All the proceeds of those shirts go to buy baseball gloves for youth baseball players, so we can kind of keep spreading the love of the game of baseball, because it completely changed my life. And so hopefully at the end of the day, when it's all said and done and I'm 6 feet in the ground, everybody says he was a grinder, he did it right, he bet on himself, and he stayed true and impacted a lot of people.
That's so cool, man. Thanks so much for being with us today. I mean, awesome story. Some messages in there. I mean, I got a whole page full of notes here. You guys are doing it right, man. I appreciate you being on here.
Tyler, thank you so much as well. Thanks, man. That was great.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. This was awesome. I love talking shop with you guys, and definitely got to get you guys to Banana Land.